Hey everybody, welcome to the newest episode of ESLA's Icons and Experts, brought to you twice a month in partnership with our good friends over at the Extended Stay Lodging Association. I'm very excited to be here with you today because every other week on this show, we're highlighting the people that helped create the modern extended stay hospitality universe, or featuring experts that are going to help you thrive in your own extended stay hotel business. I want to thank our friends over at Choice Hotels for sponsoring this event, specifically Choice Hotels in the extended stay segment. They got 4 great brands for you and 500 hotels in the extended stay category already open, including 3-time J.D. Power Award winners Woodspring Suites and their newest brand, Ever Home Suites. They've also got more than 70 extended stay professionals ready to help you empower your potential extended stay business. Check them out at choicehotelsdevelopment.com, choicehotelsdevelopment.com. So today we're going to be talking about Paul Novak, 54 years in this business. And he's going to talk about his early days in hotel development in the extended stay segment, including working with incredible companies like Marriott, Residence Inn, Woodspring Suites. And we're going to discover the secrets behind the success of him, the brands, the challenges he faced, and the discipline needed in order to thrive in this environment. So whether you're a seasoned hotelier or just starting out, this is the show for you. I've gotten to know Paul a little bit over the last 6 months or so. I hadn't come across him before that. And in that time, I have been so impressed by his accomplishments in this business and how 54 years in it, he has just as much enthusiasm as he ever had before. I also want to thank Delasart Hospitality for sponsoring this episode. Please check them out at delasart.com. That's delasart.com. They've got more than 22 years extended stay operational experience, and they can help you be successful at your property. They're the only management company offering 3 key services, either bundled together or separately: full management, remote sales support, and remote revenue management services. Check them out again at delasart.com. I'm Glenn Hausman. Thank you so much for tuning into this show. I really appreciate you. You're going to love this one.
Paul, Matt, so great to see you guys. Matt, I'm excited to be working with you for the first time, having you co-host our Icons and Experts show today. How are you doing?
I'm good. I feel, there's moments where you feel like you finally make it, and to tag team a podcast with you, with Paul, is definitely one of those times. So great to be here and excited for the conversation.
Paul, I wanted to jump right in here with you. It's like all of a sudden, we were joking around before we started recording that in the extended stay, all roads lead to Jack DeBoer, the godfather extended stay. But I'm feeling like the last few months, all roads lead to me connecting with you, Paul Novak. Out of nowhere, I'm around you all the time these days. One of the things that I found most interesting is I didn't even know the first time I said hello to you when we did a panel together on extended stay that you have been ingrained in this business long before anyone else was. So what really made you love this business, and how did you get involved so our viewers can understand?
Well, obviously, I have been in the hotel business a long time. This is my 54th year since coming out of college. And I've been, since coming out of college, strictly focused on the development side and the real estate side, starting doing some market and feasibility studies for what then was known as HKF, which is subsequently become PKF, but then ended up gradually moving more into the development side. And so through my career, while I was at Marriott, we had the opportunity, or I should step back. While I was at Marriott, I ended up being recruited to Residence Inn and Jack DeBoer in 1985. And at that time, I was running all of Courtyard and Fairfield Inn development for Marriott, which was strictly company owned and developed at that time. We didn't do any franchising with those two brands until the early 90s.
Wow.
But I was traveling so much, and I had an introduction through an associate that was at Marriott, an individual by the name of Tony Isaac, who was an integral part of Residence Inn, ultimately with Lodge Works. But I met Jack, and he made me an offer to come to Residence Inn and run Residence Inn worldwide. And I actually had accepted the position and had tried to resign from Marriott, but they wouldn't let me go. So I did not end up going to Residence Inn or working side by side with Jack, but that did give me an opportunity to really get to know Jack quite well, and it gave me an opportunity, although I didn't get involved in it because I never actually started at Residence Inn, to understand the extended stay segment. Ironically, 2 years later, at Marriott, we had the opportunity to work with Jack to acquire Residence Inn for Marriott. And as they say, some things come around, go around. And when I was integrally involved in the acquisition of it, and then subsequently took over all the responsibility for developing Residence Inn. So I go back to 1987 when I headed up development for Residence Inn, and so I had the luxury of becoming very, very involved in the extended stay. Over the years, obviously, I moved away from that and was doing a lot of other things. But then about 5 years ago, I think it was 5 years ago now, Matt, maybe 4 years ago, time's flying so much, you're losing track of time. We had the opportunity through Mark Laporte at Concord Hospitality to be introduced to Choice and to the Woodspring Suites concept and the product, and did quite a bit of a research analysis into the market, understanding the positioning, the customer, and what actually drives that lower end economy extended stay segment. And we were, as a private investment group, were so impressed with the opportunities, with the performance, and the ability to make tremendous returns on your investment, that we made a major commitment in partnership with Concord Hospitality to develop roughly 20 to 30 Woodsprings. This all happened just before COVID. And so we were successful enough to be able to continue to function and move forward with our intent to build 20 to 30 of them, even during COVID, putting sites under contract during COVID, getting hotels under construction during COVID, and the next year or two after. We have now gotten to the point where we have, we didn't hit the 20 to 30, but we have 17 Woodsprings open. We have a couple of more under construction. And so we're very, very committed to to this segment. And because of the success of the segment, because of Choice's ability to create and expand the strength of the brand through the acquisition of what was at that point Value Place, they've created obviously a segment that's getting a lot of interest by not only a lot of investors, developers, but obviously all of the other brands like Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, all have, and Wyndham, all which have come out with products that either directly or indirectly compete with Woodspring Suites.
Matt?
Yeah, Paul, it's interesting. I remember the meeting you're talking about. I had just started a choice. I believe it was in either late 2018 or early 2019 in Rockville. And there was kind of an aha moment in that meeting where it was really, this thing is not a hotel. It's not fully an apartment, not fully a hotel. It's really that true kind of hybrid with that high floor of a multifamily investment, but the ability to take advantage of seasonality and the ability to mark-to-market rates on a more frequent basis than you can with a multifamily. And, you mentioned it, 2019, Woodspring was the kind of set the standard. COVID, proved the model out beyond a reasonable doubt, and it's attracted a lot of competition. So when you think about the next 5 years, what makes you just excited about the extended stay segment from a private equity investment opportunity perspective now as you were back in 2018, 2019 when you were getting involved with Woodspring?
I think the long-term potential for the segment, looking at both the economy side as well as the mid-price side, and obviously Choice has entered into the mid-price with the Everhome brand. I think the long-term potential is still tremendous. I think there may be some stumbling. There might be some speed bumps in this segment over the next couple of years, simply because of what has occurred in the last year or so with some of the demand generators falling off a little bit, not much, but with the economy the way it is, with construction costs going up, with the high inflation, fuel prices, food prices going up, it is an interest rates skyrocketing. It has obviously not only affected the ability to develop these products, it also has had an impact on the demand form a little bit, because there are a few less construction workers out doing projects because construction has slowed down. There's less relocation.
Yes, but Paul, I would say Americans' unhealthy lifestyles are helping the traveling nursing industry. So maybe that'll balance.
It hopefully will balance out. But relocations has slowed a bit because of the difficulty in just moving. I mean, we're in the self-storage business. We got into it about a year and a half, 2 years ago. We're very excited about it. It was a very hot industry. And it has slowed down too. And it's just because people are not relocating right now.
Right.
They can't afford to buy a house. They can't afford to sell. So there's a few glitches, but I don't feel that it is a systemic issue with the segment. And I think we will see 2025 being a great year.
Yeah.
And Paul, Paul, on that note, you've got people looking for 2-acre sites around major metropolitan areas that are experiencing a lot of growth, right? You just mentioned that there has been some softening in demand. And obviously with cost of capital and cost to build, the underwriting looks different than it did back when you were underwriting those first Woodspring deals in 2018, 2019. Has that affected or changed your philosophy on what a sleeper site looks like for extended stay, or what the best markets look like for extended stay?
And could you explain sleeper site too for our audience?
I think everyone knows what the obviously good markets are, right? And so I think to be first in some of the best markets, you've got to have a little bit of a different approach. And Paul, I understand this is a public podcast, and I no secret sauce, but I think just not all markets are great for extended stay, and obviously with the different inputs into the underwriting, that might look different than it did previously. And I just kind of give you some space to how do you think about that right now?
Yeah, I think the one thing that we've found is that this product is very, very dependent upon growth in a market, because of the nature of the customer, the construction worker, people relocating, just movement of the population base. And we actually went very heavy into Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
which has had its ups and downs economically, largely driven by the auto industry. But what we have found, and we've been very, very satisfied and pleased with our investments in Michigan, but they've taken more time and effort because just because of the fact that the markets are not growing in that state as well as other Midwestern states, as compared to the tremendous population movement, as we all know, that's occurring throughout the Sun Belt. So
Yes.
I think the one thing that we've recognized is that the strength of this industry really is going to be in the Sun Belt segments of the country, and that's a large portion of the country. I mean, it fundamentally extends from the Potomac River and south into Virginia, and all the way down to the southeast, across to the southwest, and all the way to at least to the California border.
I was going to say, it's a polite way of saying everywhere but New York and California.
Everywhere but New York and California.
I will say, like Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is the fastest growing metroplex in the country, just to give you an understanding about how that population is shifting out there.
Exactly. And we're still extremely bullish about the economy mid-priced extended stay, which we would like to reterm long-term stay.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want to get caught up in a situation where it's considered an apartment and therefore residential and affecting zonings and neighborhood issues. So, but the average length of stay does make it more, like Matt had mentioned, more of an apartment. A temporary apartment is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's a great alternative to people that can't afford to go into the Class A apartments, which this country has experienced a tremendous increase in supply over the years and has absorbed it. We're heavily invested in Greystar, which is the largest multifamily owner, operator, developer in the world. And so we're very close to the multifamily side. And there really is quite a bit of a connection, but it's at a much lower price point.
Yeah, I think you the key word is temporary. I think it's for folks that have a need for that style of accommodation, but want the flexibility because it's on a temporary basis. Paul, you mentioned the jurisdictional concerns. When you're getting into a new market and introducing this concept to a jurisdiction, do you find that they're most often have a preconceived notion about what this is? Or is it more of a blank canvas where you're educating on why extended stay can add value in a community? And I guess just, some of the challenges and for the listeners, many that are considering getting into the space, any advice or best practices you'd share there?
Yeah, luckily we have not had that many deals that were either difficult or even we weren't able to consummate an opportunity because of the perception of the industry. But it is, for us, it's only been a few cases where it's been a problem. And when it's been a problem has been because of the fact that there have been individuals that have taken older product and just downgraded them and have attracted a segment of business that none of us really want to have anything to do with. But you've got some hotels out there that have horrible reputations, that have significant crime problems, and the cities where those properties are, the cities are well aware of what those hotels generate as far as problems for their community. But as I said, that is not particularly widespread. So as long as there's not something in that market that has created an image or reputation, we've had very good success in convincing municipalities of the need for this product, particularly in markets where you've got Class A and B Class B and C apartments, where the occupancies tend to be in the mid to high 90s, and you can't get into these apartments. And one of the biggest issues in this country is affordable housing.
Right.
And you just, the blue collar worker, some of the gray collar workers simply can't find places to live. And these are great Americans. These are great workers. They are well built. They are the backbone of this country. You and I and the rest of us that are in this industry, are not the backbone necessarily of this country. It's the workers. It's the nurses. It's a lot of the blue collar, gray collar community across this country, and they simply can't find places to live, even on a temporary basis. So this product provides a community with an alternative and something that they really need. And we've had great success in convincing communities that this is a product that you should really look at as temporary affordable housing for a working class group of people.
Makes a lot of sense. Paul, strikes me that you've been in this business for a long time. So what is one thing you wish you knew then, or for people that are just starting now, that you learned the hard way over time?
That's an interesting question. Let me think for a moment. Probably the thing that we've learned the most, and it's actually, and Matt is quite aware of this because they preach it. I preach it whenever I'm talking to people. To be successful in this industry, you have to maintain one point, one word, and that's discipline as it relates to the type of customer that you go after. And I'm not referring to necessarily the worker, the
Length of stay.
Length of stay, exactly. That if you allow yourself to sell rooms, and we are rooms and a hotel product, if you allow yourself to sell rooms on a more transient basis, a shorter term stay of 1 to 3, 4, 5 nights, it changes the whole dynamics of the operation. It changes the dynamics of the customer that's staying in the hotel. It changes the financial aspects. It changes the return that you expect. So that's probably the most significant thing. Forget about the construction aspect. Forget about the site selection. If you don't maintain that discipline in making sure that you're going after and attracting and accommodating that longer stay business, this model will not work for you.
Yeah, man.
And you'll make money, but you won't make the same kind of money you thought you were going to make.
Yeah,
because you didn't execute the plan that these things have to be executed to.
True.
Yeah, when we talk to someone new, it's, you know, you're interested in the space because it's different, and you've got to lean into those differences. And I think the biggest piece, like Paul mentioned, is the discipline to stick to the model, particularly around the guest you're targeting, the length of stay, and it's moving from just trying to maximize revenue to almost thinking about optimizing flow through, and not chasing rate. And I think to be successful, it's a very active process locally, and that's the other piece where there's a big, there is a learning curve. But it's really about getting the right GM that is going to get out in the market and really create awareness for the product. It's not so much selling as creating the awareness with the right demand drivers. And I think, you know, as new folks get into the space, that's the biggest piece, and that's why we really encourage them to use a management company, because these management companies that have that experience, that, you know, they hit the ground running on day one versus any kind of learning curve for self-operations. So,
and they're coming in with that discipline that you need. And that's the common theme that we've been exploring here on Icons and Experts, because if you don't do that, then everything's going to be a mess. Man, I think you got one good last question before we wrap up over here.
Yeah, Paul. So I've got one that's a little more serious, one that's more fun. So, and it's we're almost at football season, so you'll know where I'm going. But you know, you've got the auto camp investment that you're heavily involved with. Obviously the extended stay platform build out. What motivates you personally to continue to build on the legacy, going back to Courtyard Fairfield and really, you know, Residence Inn, which we started the conversation? Like what still keeps you energized to keep being out there? I'm sure you're looking at sites today in Salt Lake. You know, what motivates you still?
What motivates me is I've had not the success. I've had the luck of being involved in creating new products. I was on the creative team for Courtyard and developed the first 225 Courtyards. I was on the creative team for Fairfield Inn, developed the first 125 Courtyards. I developed 100 Residence Inns. I developed the first loft in the United States for Starwood. And so I love being involved in brands that are growing. And that's what excited me about Woodspring. It's what excites me about some of the other brands that are now coming into the segment. But at the same time, I have not lost my love for the more traditional side of the hotel business. Unfortunately, they don't make a lot of economic sense at the moment. We were very lucky in having an opportunity to actually develop a 250 room Hilton on the campus of Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, which is under construction, will open in the fall of 25. So I still get the opportunity to find unique hotels in the traditional side. But right now, I'm blessed by the fact that Whitman Peterson and our partners have had the ability to go into segments of the hospitality industry that had growth potential during some of the more difficult times. And the waking up every day and being able to be actively involved in our outdoor lodging company with AutoCamp and expanding that concept, that platform, expanding the economy and mid-priced extended stay is what keeps me going. People always say, Paul, I cannot believe you're still doing this. And for those out there that might not be aware of it, I turned 78 in May, and I still travel 3 to 4 days a week, looking at sites, looking at our properties, and just trying to make new things happen within the hospitality industry. So that's what keeps me going. That's what excites me every morning when I wake up, even though it might be in a different city and a different hotel bed. But I love creating opportunities. I love creating investment opportunities and that type of thing.
Amazing. Paul, thank you so much for being here with us today. That was absolutely fantastic. And Matt, thanks for being an amazing co-host. You guys brought it out, and so did you out there. So what did we learn today? We learned that even though there might be some hiccups in the extended stay business, its long-term viability is fantastic, particularly in different segments of the market, depending on demand drivers. There's a lot of room for economy brands. There's a lot of room for mid-scale brands. And as extended stay continues to prosper, we're going to see more segmentation appealing towards different audience segments. So when you're thinking about that investment, think about those jurisdictions that you're going to be able to convince for this project that are probably located somewhere in the Sun Belt, or as we like to say, not New York or California. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you check out all of our shows over here for Extended Stay Lodging Association's Icons and Expert Series. You can follow that and more great content at novacancynews.com. I'm Glenn Hausman.